Welcome back to the channel. You know, if you're here, that means that you're probably interested in cassette tapes. And I think that's great. If you're like me, you grew up with them and you remember them being great and terrible and both all at the same time. Today, we're going to talk about the humble cassette tape, its history, concept, and how to make the most of it today if you're a beginner. Even if you're a pro, you might still learn something. Stay tuned for a crash course, the Vintage Electronics Channel Beginner's Guide to Cassette Tapes, coming up next. I have always been a tape person. I like the sound of analog recordings. There's something about the warmth and the realism that you get from a properly recorded tape that you just can't match in a digital file. Tape is something that's tactile. You can feel it, touch it. You can see the progress of movement and the progression through the program. It's mesmerizing. It's audio as well as visual entertainment. I was really disappointed when physical media all but died out, but we can keep it alive ourselves. I don't pretend to be an audiophile by any stretch of the imagination, so this video is not for audiophiles. It's for regular people and enthusiasts who want to use their vintage equipment and have fun doing so. Maybe I'll do a more advanced video in the future, but for now, let's help just regular folks get into the vintage audio scene who may have questions or want some basic knowledge or information. We're not going to get into adjusting bias levels or azimuth in this video. We aren't even going to cover auto calibration. Just plug and play cassette recording that most people will do in their home. I think to fully appreciate how far the cassette has come, we need to go back to the beginning, just briefly. After all, the compact cassette wasn't developed with high-quality music in mind. If we go back to the year 1963, Lou Ottens and his team from Philips had wrapped up development and the compact cassette was born. They had set out to devise a solution to open reel formats that were difficult to thread and came in all sorts of sizes and recording speeds. They wanted to make a standardized tape cartridge that was easy to use, had long recording time, and didn't require the user to have to touch the tape to thread the machine. Their solution was the now familiar design we now refer to simply as a cassette. At the beginning, the quality wasn't good enough to make it a music format, but as time went on, it became a serious contender. By the mid-1970s, the sound quality had become high enough for music enthusiasts to really take notice. Improvements in tape types and equipment drove the cassette to popularity from that point forward. Physically, cassettes hold two spools, one supply spool and one take-up spool. Wound around those is quarter-inch magnetic tape in lengths up to 120 or even 180 minutes towards the end of the format's life. Most common were the 60 and 90-minute cassettes that we're all familiar with, as those longer lengths really tended to be a bit fragile. Since the 1960s, almost all music cassettes were 4-track systems. This means they hold 2 stereo tracks on each side, for a total of 4 tracks. The tape head pushes into the felt pad in the middle for playback and recording, as well as an erase head, capstan, and pinch roller. On the top, you'll find notches that can be popped out to prevent recording over your tape, as well as other notches that dictate the type of tape inside. The type of tape that you record on is just as important as the equipment that you use. If I think back to when I was a child and a teenager, most of the equipment that I used was low quality, and I could only afford cheap tapes from discount stores. I believe many of us share that experience, and if your enjoyment of the format ended before you were able to experience the quality from tape, I'm really sorry to hear that. I hope we can change that for you today. Like anything else in life, you get out of a cassette what you put into it. If you start with a low quality cassette and put it into a low quality machine, guess what the results are going to be? Pretty bad. So what are the types of tape? There are actually 4 different tape types, cleverly named as type 1, 2, 3, and 4. Type 1 tape is the lowest grade of tape that you can buy. It's also known as ferro or ferric tape, since it's basically just an oxide coating on the substrate. Now don't get me wrong, there are some ferric tapes that sound excellent, but again, you get what you pay for. Some manufacturers will call them normal tapes or high output, low noise, but don't let that fool you. Always look for the tape type. It's on there somewhere. I bought hundreds and hundreds of cheap type 1 tapes when I was younger. They're noisy and they lack top end for the most part, but they're good for everyday recording. Type 2 tape is also known as chrome or high position tape. These have a coating of chromium or cobalt that increases the dynamic range of the tape and results in higher highs and less hiss. They do tend to have slightly lower response on the bassier parts, but I feel they sound better overall. These are the type of tape that I use most often when I make my own recordings. I think they're a nice balance of low noise and wider frequency response. Type 3 tape is known as ferrochrome tape, and it's actually what you think it is. It's a blend of type 1 and type 2 tape formulations. So if you get the crisp highs of a chrome tape and you put it with the base of a ferric tape, that's what a type 3 is. These are a bit of a failed experiment and were only available for a short period of time in the 70s. In fact, most equipment doesn't even support type 3 tape. Type 4 is also known as metal tape. These were the holy grail in the 1980s and 1990s. They were expensive and generally looked pretty cool, and had the best sound of any of the formulations. They had very low noise or hiss in the recordings, and had a very wide frequency response. These are very hard to find nowadays, but if you're really into cassettes and have the equipment that can record on them, I still suggest maybe buying one so you can experience what I'm talking about. So all this talk transitions nicely into equipment. If you want to record on anything other than type 1 cassettes, you're going to need equipment that can handle the bias, equalization, and power requirements of the higher quality tapes. Most consumer recorders will handle type 1 and type 2 cassettes, but be sure to look for the proper selectors to be sure. You always want to match your cassette to the settings on your recorder, whether you're recording or playing back. Something else you might find on your cassette deck is Dolby noise reduction. Dolby was developed in order to lessen the hiss that you get on cassette tapes due to their slow speed of only 1 7/8 inches per second. This is purely personal preference, but I tend to not use it because I feel that it degrades the quality of the music. Whether you use it or not is totally up to you. This is about what you yourself prefer. So let's touch on the equipment that I'm going to be using in this video. After all, we do need to record something. So my workhorse cassette deck that I use every day is a Tascam 112. It's a prosumer model from the 1980s, and it does a great job. It's not a super high-end model, but it's not a cheap one either. It's kind of right in the middle. It has the capability to record and play back type 1, 2, and 4 tapes, and also has Dolby B and C noise reduction for when I would choose to use it. I think it's only fair to use brand new tapes for our demonstration, so I have new type 1 and type 2 cassettes from ATR Magnetics here in the USA. This is not a sponsored video. I bought these myself. They manufacture new cassettes, and I've purchased my open reel tapes from them for years, so I was very happy when they started producing brand new cassettes as well. I have a new old stock metal cassette that I'm going to use for a comparison since they don't make those new anymore. Now we're going to pick a high quality digital file to record, and I'll walk you through the process. It's easier than you think, and it's a lot of fun too. To start off, we're going to record on a brand new type 1 or ferric cassette. Now the first thing we need to do before we even start recording is take a look at our cassette deck and make sure that everything is in the proper position. We want our tape selector in the normal position or type 1, depending on what yours says. If you want to use Dolby Noise Reduction, that's where you can turn that on. Select B or C or S if you have it. If your machine doesn't say B or C and just says Dolby Noise Reduction, then it's going to be Dolby B. Now, I tend to not use it, so I'm going to turn that off. We're going to open up our brand new tape and we're going to put that in our cassette deck, and we're going to put it into record pause. Generally that's hitting play and record and the pause button, because we need to set our recording levels. Now let me get our digital file started here to record into it. Now this could just as easily be a record or another tape or the radio, but we're going to use a digital file so that we have a little bit easier control over it. Now the next thing we need to do is set our record levels. And this is going to vary based on the type of tape that you're using. Type 1 tapes don't like to be driven really, really hard. So we want to make sure that our peaks don't really go over the 0 on our VU meter. If your deck has automatic level control that you can turn it off and adjust it manually. It'll sound a whole lot better. So on this one, it looks like we're actually pretty good. It's every now and then peaking over the 0, but for the most part, it's staying below it. So I think we're pretty good. All right, so now that we've got that set, I'm going to go back to the beginning. Now all tapes have a little bit of a clear leader on them. We're going to want to make sure that it plays through that leader before we start recording. Then we hit play on our source. And now we're recording a tape. Now let's see what we have to do differently if we're going to record a chrome or a metal cassette. I'm going to go ahead and stop this. Take it back to the beginning. Go ahead and pull our normal cassette out of the cassette deck. And this time we're going to try our Cobalt Silver series from ATR. This is a chrome or type 2 Cobalt cassette. To get that put in the deck, same record pause. Now we're going to come down here and we want to make sure that our tape control is on the type 2 position. This one is chromium dioxide, same thing. And again, if you want to use Dolby Noise Reduction, now's your chance to do that. Now as far as adjusting the levels on a chrome cassette, they can actually be driven a little bit harder and still be okay. So I'm going to get this one where it peaks just a little bit over the 0. I found that for most of the chrome cassettes that I've used, that's a pretty good setting. And we will record as normal. Now what if it's a metal cassette? Do we have to do anything differently for that? The answer is yes. Now this is a metal cassette. This is a type 4. So if we pop that one in, we would select our metal cassette, and then these could actually be driven about the same as a chrome cassette, some of them a little bit more. If you want to play it safe, keep it to where it's just peaking in between the 0 and the 3, and you'll be okay for a metal cassette. Now the sound quality is definitely a wide spectrum on these, but obviously the metal cassette will give you your best sound, but these things can also be 20, 30, 40, 50, or even $100 nowadays, and most of the time they're used. So you kind of take a risk when buying a metal cassette. I would stick with brand new cassettes from good brands, just so you don't sour your experience with cassettes again like you did back when you were a kid. So now that we've learned how to record our cassettes, let's talk a little bit about maintenance on your cassette deck. Like anything mechanical, your cassette deck is going to need some preventative maintenance. If you're just pulling your deck out from storage after 30 or 40 years, or if you just bought one on eBay that doesn't quite work right, it may need a belt change. Now that can be something that's a little bit advanced for a beginner, but there are plenty of old guys like me out there who could walk you through the process, or may even have videos out there about it, hint, hint. But for the most part, keeping your deck clean is going to be the key to getting really good recordings out of it. Cleaning a cassette deck is a pretty simple process. It just requires some isopropyl alcohol and some swabs. A clean record and playback head is critical to keeping your machine sounding its best. Now, to clean a cassette deck, the easiest way to do it is to dip your swab in the isopropyl alcohol. And if we look down here, we can see the heads. You have a playback head, a record head, and an erase head. Now these, as the tape passes through, can actually become really, really grimy from the tape coating that actually rubs off onto the cassette heads. So you just want to go in here with your swab and clean those off. Now, how often do you do it? Well, I'm always going to say follow your cassette deck manufacturer guidelines, but for me, I tend to do it before I record every single time, because I want to make sure that I get the best recording that I can out of my cassette deck. So we actually had just a little bit of grime on that one, not a whole lot. We're going to clean off our erase head. Again, just a little bit. Now down here, this is what's known as a capstan. That's what helps to pull the tape through the system. It's important to keep that clean too. You know, you hear all these stories from people about their cassette deck eating their tapes and all of this, and I don't think I've ever really had that problem. I think that comes down to people with dirty decks. So make sure that you clean your capstan. If it's a dual capstan system like this one, you want to clean both. And then also your pinch roller down there. It can get gummy throughout the years too, and that can cause a problem. So if any of those things seem like they're not coming clean, or they're starting to get soft or tacky, go ahead and replace them. Keep your deck in good shape, and it will take care of you in the process. Now, for those who are wondering what deck this is, it's not the one we recorded on. This is my BIC T3. This is a 2-speed deck that actually records at the standard 1 7/8, but also 3 3/4 inches per second, and it sounds pretty excellent. We've got a video of the belt change on there right now, and there'll be another video coming up on the channel here pretty soon going through the details on it. But there is a deck out there for everybody, for every budget. So make sure you take your time if you're shopping for one and get the best deck that will fit in your budget. Don't go cheap. You won't be sorry. I hope you enjoyed our video today. This beginner's guide to cassettes hopefully gave you enough knowledge to be confident in recording your own cassettes at home. Now, like I said before, this is not an audiophile course. We might do that later on, but I wanted to help those who are wanting to get into cassette recording for the very first time, or those who are getting back into it after a long hiatus. Just something to get you recording right away and enjoying cassettes the way that they were meant to be enjoyed. Now, if you liked this video, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment below. It really helps me out, and I like to reply to the comments. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a community that we've built, and I'd like to invite you to be a part of it. Until next time, my name's Chad, and this has been the Vintage Electronics Channel. We'll see you next time.